Welcome to Six Figure Coaches with Luke Charlton, where every week we interview a successful coach and break down their business. We take you behind the scenes in their marketing, advertising, and sales campaigns. We show you what's working. We show you their frameworks, their proven strategies, so you can implement them in your business to grow. Now let's bring on this week's guest. Here is your host, Luke Charlton. Hey, this is Luke Charlton here, and welcome back to the Six Figure Coaches Show. Very excited to have you here. Very excited to bring on our guest this week in just one moment. Just before we do, what are we gonna pitch today? We're going to pitch the Hermit Hole. The Hermit Hole is where these episodes premiere every single week. So if you go to thehermithole.com, it's our private Facebook community where you can watch these interviews first before they go live onto like iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify, all of the podcasting audio platforms. And also, if you want to be featured on the Six Figure Coaches Show, like if you're a coach doing above 250K or more per year, like a top 1% coach, that's exactly who we have on this show to share your story. We'd love to promote you. So just go to podcast.lukecharlton.com. Okay, so if you want to watch the episodes where they premiere, go to thehermithole.com. If you want to be interviewed and be promoted on this show, go to podcast.lukecharlton.com, and we'd be excited to have you on the show. So with that being said, let me bring on today's guest. So he is the CEO of Naylor Body Design. He's the host of the Optimal Alpha podcast. Now, he wanted to kind of downplay his introduction a bit, but I want to talk him up a bit because he is been winning many. He's a physique champion competitor. Actually, I'll bring him on. His name's Andy Naylor, and I'll get Andy to explain because I know what a physique competitor is. Actually, we had a few guests before Andy that have also competed at like IFBB pros and all that. So I know what a physique competitor is. So you've got a lot of experience in the like kind of the bodybuilding world, competing there, but now also helping other high-performing CEOs, executives to transform their lives through your health and fitness strategies. And you become now a very successful coach doing it, which is obviously why you're here and what we're going to dive into on the marketing and sales side of things. So first of all, welcome to the show, to Six Figure Coaches. Very excited to have you here. And for those coaches that are listening that don't know what like physique, men's physique competing is, can you just give a little bit of an insight into that, and then we'll get into your coaching business?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, Luke, absolute pleasure to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Absolute privilege. So, men's physique. So, yeah, I mean, in the sort of physique competitive world, most people can probably picture a bodybuilder in their mind. I mean, we've just had the Mr. Olympia on last weekend, and that's the sort of, I suppose, to some degree, the sort of pinnacle of bodybuilding. And then underneath that particular class, there are multiple other classes in terms of physique development and criteria in what judges are looking for and so on and so forth. And it's sort of diluted is the wrong word, but it's just sort of layered more as time has gone on, essentially to give more people an opportunity to get into competition. So men's physique, which is where I competed, is, I would still call it bodybuilding. In my view, I'm still turning up to the gym and bodybuilding. Like, yeah. There's no difference in my approach to going into the gym and doing everything I possibly can to move my physique forward and get into the best shape possible. So men's physique there's certain body parts that are like with any class that are absolutely key. There's building up those body parts. There's then getting essentially entirely fatless, shredded, ripped, whatever you want to call it. But it's as lean as humanly possible. Ultimately, to the point where in my experience, it is painful. It's not particularly fun. It's a huge amount of suffering for about 16 to 20 weeks for me. And it's ultimately bring your body to the best condition possible without sacrificing any muscle, while at the same time becoming very proficient in posing and ultimately presenting that physique on stage. It's one thing having an amazing physique and working incredibly hard for goodness knows how many years to get that. If you then can't present that well on stage, you're done, you're goose. Like someone's going to come along with a physique that might be 20% worse than yours, but they can present it better. That
actually happened on the weekend with Olympia, right? With the reigning champion Ramy. He lost, right? He came like fifth because he was.
He went from first to fifth, which is pretty unheard of. I'm sure it has happened in the past, but it's a fair drop down. And I mean, it was going to be one of those shows that it was very open, and people said if Remy didn't come in at his best, it was then a wide open door for anybody, and that's basically what happened. I mean, the criteria that they look for on that level is interesting because there's other things in the mix. People would the problem and also the interesting thing about bodybuilding shows is it's entirely subjective. It isn't you jumped the highest, you lifted the most, you ran the fastest. It's I think you look the best. It's entirely subjective, which
they did try to measure it though. They did try to have measurable.
Oh, there's absolute criteria, yes. However, it's a difficult thing to really thoroughly understand, and certainly at the highest level, there's a lot of other things going on in the background, sponsorship deals, promoting bodybuilding. There's a lot of other things that are included that a human being struggles to get out of their mind when they're making subjective decisions. It's difficult. So, and it's definitely one of the things. I mean, ultimately, I won more shows than I didn't. I did particularly well at a national level. I competed from 37 till, I forget the last time I competed, but here I am at 43. I have no personal desire to get back on stage again, although I have desire to do things like photo shoots, because that's more something that I do for me, and I still get to present my physique. And of course, I then get to use that in sales and marketing inside my business. So there's a tie-in. So interestingly, in the sort of business that I'm in, health, fitness, wellness, longevity, all this sort of area, me staying in the best condition I can. One is a great advert for the business. Two, it's always a continued proof of concept, which is the reason I competed for the first time. So when I competed for the first time, I was still a personal trainer on a gym floor. We can obviously delve into that as well. And I wanted to prove I knew what I was doing. Ultimately, I wanted to do two things. I wanted to prove I could do it. It wasn't something that someone else could do and I couldn't. I wanted to see if I was capable of getting to that place. And then also it would give me and my business credibility. And it did exactly that. That was my reason for competing. But so, yeah, I've competed a number of times. The only thing about the class that I went into is, which a lot of people would sort of pull men's physique apart for, is you have to wear board shorts. So it's essentially you cover your legs. Now, the interesting paradox about that is my legs are my strongest body part by a mile. So I chose a class to go into where I didn't ever get to show off my legs on stage, and they're light year ahead of the rest of my upper body. So I nearly went and competed again, probably just after COVID, however many years back. I've lost count of where that is now. And if I had have competed again, I would have actually done classic physique, which would have allowed me to show off my whole physique. But it wasn't to be. I decided it wasn't the right thing to do. Interestingly, my business pursuits took over. My business started to grow so fast. I thought to myself, that's where my attention should be. It should be on this and growing this, because if it's growing, it needs me now. Competition can kind of stay on one side. So yeah, that's a little bit of a background. I loved it though. I can certainly say the things I learned about myself and the skills that I learned the first time from competing, I've been able to extract those and apply them into my business 100%. Discipline, suffering, fortitude, consistency, like the things that you have in place to get into peak physical condition. It's not just standing on stage and being in the best condition, it's who you become to get there. You will literally change as a person when you go through that process. And then if you've got anything about you, like, okay, well, I can't stay in that physical shape. That wouldn't make sense. But I can take the lessons I've learned and now apply those to other areas of my business or my world, my whole life. And I didn't realize I'd done that. I think it just felt the smart thing to do. Like, why waste all this opportunity and all this learning? I then applied that back into business, and it's helped. Yeah. So that's a little bit of background on that there for sure.
Yeah, cool. And a couple of things there. So I don't think people, they see a bodybuilder and they often people that don't know much about the bodybuilding world, they just associate it with, he's just on a lot of drugs, right? But I don't think people realize how much discipline, there's discipline, and there's like, basically the bodybuilder, you have to live like every day is repeating, right?
Yeah, it's a second full-time job to get into that kind of condition.
It is like you have to eat like the same, like, because you're tracking calories, and your energy expenditure has to be the same each day to get, because if you're off, just a little bit on game day, right, when you compete, if you're too got too much water, under your in your skin or whatnot, so like leading up to the competition, your every day has to be like almost exactly the same, right? To ensure that you can
what you're trying
manage
to
how
do,
you can look.
you're sort of trying to take every variable that you can see,
Right.
and
Yeah.
make it consistent. And then if you need to change something, you've got everything consistent. You can come along and change one thing and see what result you're at.
Yeah.
And that is just discipline. It's not, I'm not going to say it's difficult. There's far more difficult things happening in the world than sticking to a bodybuilder diet like this. It's a very first world problem at the end of the day. I mean, someone says to me, you know, when we get clients, and I see people across social media, oh, you know, I just can't eat the same things every day. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's a little bit pathetic. If I locked you in a prison and I gave you the same 3 meals every day, you'd end up thanking me for them, and you'd eat them. So just change your perspective on things a little bit. It's not exactly difficult. And then also, it's, you know, my food is different every day. It's the same food, but it's different. I cook it different textures. Maybe change the meals around. Maybe, you know, one meal has potato and rice, and maybe I swap them around. So you can take the same meals and change them quite dramatically. It just takes a little bit of pre-thought. And then I spice everything I eat. Literally everything I eat will have a spice on, a herb on. Suddenly now the ability to make a meal very different is exponential. It just takes a little bit of thought. Drinking the same amount of water, you know, hitting exactly the same amount of steps. It's not difficult. It just takes, just as in business, it takes a bit of planning, a bit of execution, implementation, a little bit of, this didn't work. Right, I'll do this instead this way. And it's no different. We would do nothing. It's nothing different in terms of how we would go about, you know, running a successful business. It's watching what happens, and what's the phrase? You know, what gets measured gets managed. Basically, it's exactly the same thing. However, you do get up to a point where everything becomes so myopically focused on that one thing. And of course, once you've gone past the goal and you're the other side of the show, that's the difficult time. The getting ready for the show is not theoretically the difficult time, because there's a massive, great goal that you're heading towards, and it's like a train coming down the track at you.
Yeah.
Once you've got the other side, you're in a very vulnerable position. Your body literally wants to store fat, and there's going to be, you can have emotional, psychological, physical issues with food. It's endless. And a lot of people will get themselves in a right old tangle after a show where they want, well, either they just think they're going to go off and start building muscle immediately, and then they get fat very, very quickly, or they don't monitor a whole bunch of stuff, water, sodium, food, and they can end up retaining a huge amount of water. That can become dangerous. But what most people do is binge after a show. You know, suddenly the show's gone and it's, you know, floodgates are open, and the body's ability to stop someone eating has gone. The vagus nerve connection between the gut and the brain is so dysfunctional. And I've had this before where I've been eating and I'm about to throw up because I've eaten so much and I'm still hungry. I can't turn off this, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Wow.
I'm eating, I can feel that I'm going to probably throw the last meal up, and I can't. But your body just doesn't know when to say stop, and it feels very out of control. And I've been there, so I sympathise with anyone who's going through that. So it's the other side of the show where it's quite difficult, and it's not something I'd want to have to go through again, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it sounds, there's a lot that you guys go through to get to that condition. Now, you mentioned a second ago that, you know, you kind of stopped competing because your business was taking off. So I'm interested to know, like, what was it, or maybe there was a few factors that enabled your business to take off the way it did.
Yeah, it's a combination of a number of things. I mean, I just to go back a little bit and give a bit of sort of pre-story. I started, so I'm in the health and fitness and wellness sector industry, and I started like probably nearly every person who's in my position does, which is PT on a gym floor.
Yeah,
that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I learned how to coach. That's where I learned how to manage people, get them to not do what I want them to do, but ultimately follow plans and so on and so forth. And I did that for 8 years. I was always self-employed. I was opening up someone else's gym at 6 o'clock in the morning through the winter. It got to a point where I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to hate this eventually. I need to stay in. I love fitness. I love helping people. I love the joy of being able to help another human being. Literally, that's why I ended up doing what I do. And I thought to myself, I'm going to hate this very soon if I don't do something else. And in the background, I'd always been running some sort of online system, and it just never done anything. It was like maybe doing £500 a month. Like, I just didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I hired a mentor. That was the catalyst. And I can't stress and I have mentors, I've had mentors all the way through. I cannot stress how important that is in any endeavor that we want to go after.
Yeah.
Whether that be getting on stage. I've always had a coach to get on stage. I got into dance music production through COVID, and I got into a mentorship for that. This is one massive lesson that I could give to anybody. If there is something out that you want to do, the mindset of, oh, I'm going to see how well I do on my own, I just don't think is very successful. I appreciate some people want to say, I just want to see how far I get on my own. I'm like, that's fine, but you're going to pay for something with only one of two things: your money or your time, which you're going to get one of those back. You'll earn the money back. You won't get the time back. So the lesson of have a mentor, I cannot stress how important that is. Maybe listening to this, you can't afford a mentor right now. Then save up, because if you find the right one, they will springboard you forward so fast.
Yeah.
Because you're ultimately paying for speed, you're paying for implementation, you're paying, I'm not a business mentor, but the things that I've learned, I probably could be to a degree if I had another version of me on the side and I had the time to do it. But the failings I've gone through, the things I've got wrong, the lessons I've learned, I could pass that on to somebody and save, goodness knows how much time. So I got a mentor and essentially decided in the September of 2019, so about 6 months before COVID, I was going to go fully online. I told my wife, she was like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all in. My first mentor was about $3,000. It was one of the biggest decisions I'd ever made. I mean, since then, I've spent tens of thousands of pounds on mentors because I see tens and tens of thousands. But it was $3,000 and it was a huge deal. But that particular mentor essentially helped me really solidify moving from on the gym floor to a fully online business. And it quickly grew from, like £500-600 a month to £1,000 to pretty much up to about 15K a month pretty damn quickly. Then along comes COVID. I think I lost half my clients. And then we just built out the back of COVID. And theoretically, it's just built ever since then. To the point where I then got another mentor, which was a much higher level. And well, I mean, my revenue graph was going along at 15K and literally went like that. Like it went straight up over the course of 1 month and essentially tripled. And it's grown ever since. Now, and there's no one thing. These two mentors, I would give a lot of credit to them. There's things I wouldn't have known, wouldn't have learned. I'd have still been maybe plugging away at like 20-25K a month. Wondering, where's the break going to come from? Where's the sort of pot at the end of the rainbow? So I think that's the sort of a little bit of a backstory as to, I guess, what sort of got me into this position. I mean, where I am now is extremely different from that. I mean, now the business has grown to beyond where I even thought it was, and it's growing. It still continues to go fast. I mean, just to give a bit of perspective, recently, I think September we had maybe 10 people in the business. Right now we have 28. So in the last quarter of the business, my whole focus was grow the teams. So legitimately grow the teams in departments: lead gen, marketing, sales, fulfillment, and grow that team out, and then drive the business forward from there with a solid platform underneath. So if you want, if there's any bits and pieces there particularly you want to delve into, but that's I guess an overview of the story that's got us to this point.
Well, I'm interested to know, so you're all online, are you?
100%. So I don't do any face-to-face work. I'm not saying I wouldn't in the future if I really wanted to and enjoyed it. I certainly would. It wouldn't be something that I committed myself to. I have to be in the gym at this particular time. I don't like that. I don't like. I still have those. I mean, I have meetings that I have to be in at certain times and things like that. But it was having to meet people in the gym that started to sort of drain me down. And if that person didn't turn up for whatever reason, there I am stood in the gym twiddling my thumbs. I mean, it's been years since I've done that. And I just don't think I'd want to go back to. There are clients. I mean, there's a client, funny enough, from the other side of the world who happens to be coming to Dubai. And they're like, oh, we can hook up for a training session. I'm like, absolutely, no, 100%. Because that's a different vibe, right? That's I happen to be going to this gym. Meet me at this time. That's when I'm going to be there. So suddenly it's like it fits into my world, and I'm very mindful to make sure that not that things are on my terms. That sounds a little bit arrogant, but I know that then I'll be my best when that person comes. I'll be a happy me, an up for it me. I'll be the person that they want me to be. But no, fully online.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson in that in terms of, setting up your coaching business in a way that serves you. Because I mean, I've had my business where, yeah, you're, you're serving clients, but you might be working in hours that are just, or you're doing things that you just don't like doing, right? And then you start getting burnt out and you start kind of like resenting the business. So, and that's not a place where you want to be, and you can't serve your clients at the highest level. So I think,
No,
yeah,
that's an interesting lesson, that ultimately you set up a business to serve you as the business
right.
owner. And a lot of business owners forget that, understandably. I have too. And, we are ultimately creating a business to give us whatever it was that we wanted that we weren't getting working for somebody else.
Yep.
Otherwise, why have we done it? And that could be financial freedom. That could be the ability to be the one person making decisions, whatever that might be for an individual. The business is there to serve the owner of the business at some level. It's also there to serve all of the employees, all of the clients, and but it's there to do a whole bunch of things. But if at the heart, the person who set that business up, and it was their brainchild, their baby, their thing, if, like you've said, if the person then starts to resent that business is going to come off the rails fast. And that sometimes means that the business owner has to not do certain things that maybe they would like to do to make the business successful, or be more mindful of their time. I mean, so for me personally, there are certain departments in my business that I have nothing to do with. I speak to the department head, they know what's expected, and I leave them to it. And they do a better job than I could do if I was in there. And I'm like, brilliant. Like I've got a couple of ideas. I tend to just throw ideas at people, and they're like, right, that's rubbish. This one's good. I'll go and work with that. And I'm like, brilliant. So I've moved into that slightly more visionary role, which is exactly where I wanted to be. Where, okay, I'm just going to go away and try and come up with a whole load of bonkers ideas. I throw them at the team, and half of them maybe don't make a lot of sense. I'm like, yeah, no worries. And then every now and again, one or two of them are like, and my team do the same thing back. I encourage, like, it's a 360 thing. It's not just me sitting up on here ideas. It's okay, as a team, we have a problem here. Let's see if we can brainstorm some ideas, because out of the collective team of, say, fulfillment, some of them are going to come up with ideas. I'm like, oh, man, that's so smart. That angle coming in, and that happened recently. We've got a project going on in fulfillment that I know what I want to achieve from the project. I don't want to create it. I want the team, the coaching team, to be delivering it. And that's a different step as we go up through a business and the business grows. You sort of detach yourself from certain elements. You're overseeing things, but you really want the people in the business to create the things, and I mean genuinely do that, because then they'll take ownership, they'll enjoy it, and then when they see something happening, like, oh, that's the part that I created. That's ownership of something, and that's genuinely important. I know I don't remember the names of studies, but there's definitely been multiple studies done on what makes a person leave or stay at a business. Most people would say it's money. It's high up on the list, but nearly at the same level is the feeling of like being listened to and involved in decision making. In other words, I'm valued here, and my opinion is valued, and I've had actual input into the moving forward of the business. I think a lot of businesses, and I can imagine a lot of coaches who are beginning to maybe build out a team as they start to realize that, there's a transition between, to start with, as a business owner, you wear every single cap: marketing, sales, lead gen, fulfillment. It's just you. And then eventually you give that cap to one other person. You're like, oh, okay. And then eventually you're wearing only one cap at the end, and that's CEO, which means you sort of take a little bit of a back step and go, right, this is the direction I want the business to go in, because market research, customer research, things are telling us to go that direction. Let's now let the departments take us there. I think that's just a little bit of insight into, I guess, the thoughts that go through my mind as certainly as we grow the business going forward, Joe.
Okay. And so how do you, what's your marketing and sales process look like?
Layered and ever changing. So, I mean, ultimately, I would say up until this point, everything we've done has been organic, pretty much. I've been able to take the business to multi six figures and starting to knock on the door of 7 without having to run any ads. It doesn't mean that the generation of prospects is free. It's not, because we have a huge virtual assistant team who are out doing an incredible job every single day, because ultimately we have, I mean, we have access to 7 Facebook profiles, 7 LinkedIn profiles, goodness knows how big email list, a LinkedIn, an IG profile, a TikTok profile. Like ultimately the funnel is big in terms of the things we can go. And that takes a team, or a small team of ninjas out there every day. Now, though they need paying, of course. And to give you an insight, I mean, we use LinkedIn quite a lot because given that our ideal client are high-level business owners, CEOs, VPs, entrepreneurs. Those are who we go after because we know that those are the people that we can help the most. That's an important thing also to consider when starting to build your business out. Try not to help everybody. It's a huge mistake. And it's really difficult to niche down and go, this is the one person who we are set up to help the best, because you think to yourself, what about everybody else? I'm struggling to get prospects but ultimately, if you're talking to this massive audience, you're talking to nobody.
Yeah.
It's like just vanilla across everybody. So of course, we use things like LinkedIn heavily, and we use a huge amount of automation tools on LinkedIn. And that's seven LinkedIn profiles that have 7 sales navigators and 7 automations and 7, like it's thousands of pounds a month just to run the LinkedIn profiles. So in terms of marketing, all of our coaches, I suppose let me go back a step there. All of our coaches create their own content. So all of our coaches are responsible for creating, literally 2 pieces of valuable content that relates to our ideal customer per day, and that's stored in an online area. We happen to use something called Trello. So they put all of their information in there, and then our virtual assistants come along and pick that up and post it for them, essentially. I guess that's very much the marketing. That's the sort of marketing, to me, has one role: to get somebody to know us, like us, trust us. That's it. That's it. If through the messages that we send out, we can genuinely help someone get to know us, who are we, what do we do? Oh, we actually like this person, and now, they've been around for a while, I trust them. Because the moment someone goes through that, they might start actually listening to what we're saying. And if we happen to reach out to them and go, hey, are you struggling with this thing? They're open to at least a conversation. And that process then allows us to bring someone into our DMs. And that's where basically all the magic happens. It's inside a genuine, real and authentic conversation in the DMs that I suppose to some degree has to have some sort of script to it. I hate the word script. I just mean more of a journey. Otherwise, the conversation disappears into the middle of nowhere, and there's no, okay, we're starting here and we're trying to get to this point here. Otherwise, well, the person on the other end feels like they're just having questions thrown at them and like, where is this going? And then also the virtual assistant or whoever's on the other end needs to know, okay, I'm trying to take someone from this point to this point. So at least we've got some sort of. So ultimately, we're using all of these social media platforms. We're posting relevant content. We then do a huge amount of outreach in our DMs, thousands per day, thousands of messages across all those profiles a day. I think one of the things that coaches at the early stage don't realize is the volume required. And if someone was to come in and see, we have a huge reporting system that we use that all the virtual assistants will, of course, report what they've done and their successes and their struggles at the end of the day. So I see exactly how many messages are sent out, and it's thousands. Because ultimately, if you get 10% of people respond, which is probably about right, and then out of those 10 people that respond, maybe 50%, maybe 30% of those book a call. That call will be with me, where I actually go through a full diagnostic call with them to work out, are they a 5-star for us? Are we a good fit for them? Are they a good fit for us? Do I feel that we can genuinely 100% help this person to their goal? Like that is what I'm trying to work out. But to get to that point, to get someone on a call with me, the amount of work that goes on in the background is immense, and it's not seen.
I think that's the misconception, because coaches hear like organic, right? Free traffic. Well, you actually spend a lot of time. And the other thing is, DM marketing is so kind of ubiquitous now that people they kind of understand the process. You get them into a private conversation. And so the response has gone in those private conversations. The response over the last few years have actually gone down, like the messenger responses. So it means you just got to do more volume. So let me ask, for a solo coach who wants to do like a Facebook group DM strategy, how many messages per day, should they be sending like 100 messages per day? I guess, like
simple answer. So one, we before we moved into LinkedIn, we were running a Facebook group. We still do. We've got like 12,000 people in that Facebook group, and that's been hugely successful. Given we had particular systems to pull people into our world and put them into our group, and then of course we've got them in our group and we talk to them.
Yeah.
Here's the simple answer though. Let's imagine you're outreaching to, I mean, the first thing is how many friends has someone got on their Facebook account? Because there's a limit of 5,000. So if someone's not at 5,000, go and friend request your ideal client. That's the first job. Go and find your ideal client on Facebook. They're hanging out in groups. That's where to find them. We've got a list of a couple of hundred groups that we will go and look at every single day, and we'll friend request out of them. We are friend requesting and kicking people out of my Facebook every day. In, old ones out. In, old ones out. My Facebook is just churning through people, because some people will come in and we're like, they were never interested in what we were going to do. We're like, that's fine. And we let them go. And then we're just finding new people. It's a constant stream.
So it's very systemized. You guys got,
it's a constant. And then here's the easy answers to how many messages to send. Increase it slowly every single day until you get an outreach DM ban. Work out what number that was at, take a day off, come underneath it and hover there. In other words, Facebook will tell you how many you can send. Now, the thing with Facebook and every other profile is they need warming up. If you just go, my profile, we can send about 80 friend requests a day, which is fairly big. And there is a difference between whether you're sending out DMs to people you've been in a conversation with or they're brand new. That is a very different thing. People that you're brand new with, the limit is a lot lower. And if you're, hey, nice to meet you, would you like to come into my group? So it's the first message type thing. I mean, we probably send of that particular message. I mean, it depends how many people have become a friend over the last day, but it could be anything from 50 to 80 to 100. But then we will get to a certain point and we're like, oh, we've been banned for a day. It's like, right, where were we? Okay, 67. Right, cool. Right, let's just hover at maybe the 55 for a few days.
Yeah.
Facebook tells you don't want to get hit with too many bans, but that's what we do. We push up and we will just push the boundaries out as far as we can until we get our fingers burned, and then we'll just come in slightly. Yeah. And we do that on every profile. The only one we haven't hit is, I don't think we've ever hit any DM ban on LinkedIn. Connection requests, yes. DM bans, I don't recall any of my guys coming back saying, oh, we've hit it. We send now goodness knows how many on there. But yeah, the goal is you need to work out your limits. There's no set amount. Someone who's just opened a Facebook account could maybe send 20. Do that for 2 weeks, and maybe they're going to get a little slap on the wrist. It's like, oh, okay, back off slightly, take a day off, let it cool down, and then come back in up to maybe just under wherever the ban was, and then slowly over time just start to inch it back up again. And I mean, it's like, let's say it's 20 20 20 for a week, then 25 for a week, then maybe another week at 25, a week at 30, slowly. That's how we. And
so all of your staff are like tracking all of this, obviously, like they've got their own roles each day doing all this.
Yep. So we have a virtual assistant tracker sheets. There's multiple tracking elements that come in. One is a spreadsheet that belongs to each virtual assistant that then is for each profile, and we track everything that happens pretty much from the level of let's take a Facebook account. So how many friends has that account got? How many friend requests did we send out? How many new friends did we get into the group? How many people accepted to get into the group? How many new group DMs did we send?
Yeah.
How many case study outreaches? How many replies to those? How many poll voter? So if we put a poll out, we will message everybody who voted on the poll. That's an easy message to send. How many of those? How many replied? We will always track how many did we do of something and how many replied. Then at the bottom of that sheet, I can get a reply percentage. Now I can just work out, where do we get the most people reply from? Simple. So I can look across the bottom and start to see trends. So I can look down all the Facebook accounts and go, this message, this particular system here is where we get the most replies. And awesome. But for us, that's always been, I mean, we've made tens of thousands of pounds over the last, goodness knows how many months. All we've done is this. Go out into Facebook, find groups that have got our ideal client in, genuinely friend request them. The next day, when they've become a friend, we send them a group saying, hey, we send them a DM saying, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, look, by the way, we run a free group where you're happy, you're welcome to join for free. We help people in there, something along those lines, and a link. they go and join that. So that thing's going around all of the time. Then my virtual assistant who's on Facebook will go into the group, and you get a list. We leave them waiting in a waiting room. They answer a bunch of questions. We extract that information out. So we get an email off the back of that, and that goes somewhere else. And then we let them in. Well, we vet them first. Because of the size of the group, we obviously now get a lot of coaches trying to get in there to come and pitch themselves and do stuff. A lot of people coming in to promote stuff, other groups, things like that. So we have to monitor it carefully. But then you send a message out saying, hey, just about to accept your request to join the group. You're very welcome. I see that you messaged that you're struggling with fat loss and nutrition is the challenge. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? That literally, and then we get into a conversation that's made us tens and tens of thousands of pounds. That thing alone, that simple. Which is why we've ended up with a group of 12,000 people, because we were like, this is working very well. We're finding the right people. We're finding them with problems, and we can help them. And it doesn't need to be any more complicated. I mean, we do far more complicated things now, but if I had to start everything again, I'd literally go straight back and just do that, because it was so easy. It was like one virtual assistant, one group, one Facebook account, tens of thousands of pounds.
Yeah, wow. And so are you on to doing advertising now?
So we're moving into the world of advertising and looking at different platforms. Right now, my Facebook account and my LinkedIn account are both completely banned from advertising, and I have absolutely not the first clue why. So those two, I haven't done anything. My reviews got completely blocked. My review on both accounts has been completely shot down. So that's kind of caused a bit of a problem. Not that those are two particular areas that we'd be focused on most. Actually quite interested in YouTube advertising for a few reasons. Particularly, I like the idea of when someone sits in front of YouTube. Okay, so here's something to consider. When someone is scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we don't spend very long looking at something, do we? We get bored within milliseconds and scroll past. That's how those platforms work. To get someone to stop and pay attention is attention is currency. Attention, eyeballs is now currency. And it's really hard to get it on those platforms. When someone opens up YouTube, they literally are going to sit and do that. In other words, they're going to put something on that they expect to watch for a few minutes at least. Generally speaking, if I put something on YouTube, I'm imagining it's going to be 10 to 20 minutes of watching something if I decide to watch the whole thing. In other words, my mindset is far more focused on the one thing. It's a different way of entering into a social media platform,
right?
If you call it a social media platform. So then, if you start to say run ads on there to say a video of yourself talking about something, if it's in front of the right person, you've just got a little bit more chance of them bloody well paying attention to what you're going to say, and that's what you need when, again, what am I trying to do? Get someone to know me, like me, trust me. I need them to, on a genuine basis. So I need to spend some time talking to them. They need to get some time to watch me articulate myself. Do I talk any sense? Do they like what I'm saying? It takes a little bit of time. So interestingly, that avenue is definitely something that we're interested in. Now, that of course requires a fair bit of setup and actual Google advertising, which I don't know a huge amount about. But guess what I've done? Hired a damn mentor, because that's what I will do when I want to go and learn about something. I've found essentially who I feel to be one of the best in the business in terms of running successful campaigns on there. I'm about to pay them tens of thousands of pounds, and I will go and get very damn good at that. And then I'll just find the next thing to move on to. But of course, I think if you can get an ad campaign, well, the simple thing about an ad campaign is when you get to a point where you can put $1 of spend in the campaign and you get $2 out in revenue, how many dollars can you put in the front end? That's the only question. Because now I can put 100,000 in and get 200,000 out, $1 million in, get 2 million out. As long as those metrics all the way through, you've suddenly got the ability to scale and scale fast. And I think that's the power of ads. That's the clear power of ads, of ad spend and advertising over organic. Because organic, you can only scale so far, so fast. Whereas ad spend, well, how much money do you want to spend is the question. So yeah, we're moving into that. It's a new world for us. We haven't had to do it at this point, but it's where things are heading for us at the moment. Yeah.
Very nice. All right. Final question, Andy. You're standing, and I ask this of all our guests, you're standing at the top of a mountain. There's thousands of coaches below you wanting to learn how to be successful. You can only shout to them one message. What is that message?
Wow. Okay. If this is going to be the most unsexy answer to this, probably you're ever going to hear. But if I was here to give people real world advice and they want to, well, is it be a successful coach or a successful business owner?
Is there a difference?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe let me like do both then. I'm interested to hear what the difference is.
So successful business owner, as in, okay, the simple message I would ram home to all the coaches listening would be, know who you want to help. Everything stems from what we would call having your avatar, your ideal client avatar. If you do not know who you are best set up to help, everything you're about to do behind that in terms of setting up your marketing, your fulfillment, all of it will be a waste of time because you do not know who it's directed to. And whenever you go into any good mentorship, generally one of the things I'll do at the beginning will be like, do your client avatar work, and nobody wants to damn well do it. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned is know exactly who you want to talk to, and I mean know them. I could tell you, I could literally describe exactly the person that we want to work with, down to, do they have pets? What color car do they? I could literally describe someone in such detail, and I couldn't. I found this really difficult for a very long time, and there wasn't a sudden point. I don't know why suddenly now I can. I think it's just because I just over time lent. So yeah,
a lot of conversations as well. A lot of conversations helps.
Goodness. I mean, I have about 8 consultations a day with literally the same person going through the same problems. I know them inside out like the back of my hand, which is why we're successful now so much in what we do, because the whole business is aligned to genuinely help that person in that position. Yeah. So yeah, my message to any coach is absolutely know who you want to help and do a genuine job of doing it. So that would be in the business. In terms of coaching, maybe the answer's the same. Now, that's why I asked. Maybe I could give a different answer, but now I've sort of said that out and heard it out loud. I guess the answer would technically be the same. Because when I think about how we coach people now, it is different based on the person that we're dealing with because of their specific problems, time poor, stress, sleep, all these issues. So I'll actually, I won't say that I could have given different answers, but I think the answer really that comes to mind would be the same. Again, know the person, really do know them. Yeah. Because then 1, you can talk to them and bring you into your business, but then 2, you're going to be able to empathize with them genuinely when they're struggling, rather than saying, oh, I don't know why you can't do this. Like your particular client can't do it for whatever reason. And you need to understand, empathize, and problem solve. Yeah. So yeah, I would track that. My answer's the same.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's funny. Like, so I have another podcast, like that I just record on my phone, and I say that all the time in that one as well. It's like, it's funny how we coaches, because we are so in love with our own methodology, our own topic, whatever it is, we kind of forget like it actually starts with the person, like, because we're selling to someone, right? It starts with the market. If there's no market, you can't sell your coaching. So that's why it always starts with the market, getting clear on the market, including, and it sounds simple, but just like, what's the main problem that you're solving? What's that big problem? And a lot of the time that I see with coaches with their marketing message, they're not actually speaking to a big, painful problem. They think they are, but the way they're communicating, as I said, they're more talking about their program versus a problem, or their solution versus the problem. So it's very good advice. It always starts with your market, knowing that market inside and out.
100%.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Andy. So where can the coaches listening go to learn more about you and what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. I would say right now, probably one of the best places to go would be my own podcast, which is still fairly fresh, fairly new. I'm still fairly new to doing that, which is the Optimal Alpha podcast. So for sure, that's a really good place. And of course, that's me talking to more our clients. So that would you'd be hearing me more as a coach in that. And then of course, in terms of looking at what it is that we do, our LinkedIn profile, you can search me out as Andy Naylor, and also our business profile on there is Naylor Body Design. Essentially, me as Andy Naylor or Naylor Body Design on pretty much every profile, apart from Instagram, where I have a really difficult handle, which is Andy_Naylor_ Purely_pro_. Like, I really should have thought more about that. But
I think you can change it. You can
I
change it.
probably need to change it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
100%. But I would say right now, you know, the podcasting and LinkedIn, in terms of really seeing what we're doing and where we're driving the business forward, are probably two of the best places to go and look for us right now, for sure.
Perfect. All right. So Andy, thanks for coming on the show and giving up your time and sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it. It was a very valuable interview, so thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you, man.
Cheers. And for everyone listening in, go check out Andy. And remember, we'll be premiering inside the Hermit Hole as well, Andy's episode. So go there to watch it first, and then we'll also on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes as well. So thanks again, Andy, for coming on, and we'll see everyone in the next episode. See you then.